Snare buzz can be really annoying. In fact, when I was a kid, it annoyed me so much, I just duct taped the wires directly to my snare drum and did some other pretty drastic stuff. Please don't do that. There's two kinds of annoying buzz out there. The first one happens when you hit your snare drum and your wires just keep buzzing longer than they should. The second one is triggered indirectly, most often by your bass player or when you hit one of your toms. This is called sympathetic buzz. Ew. So here's a little test for you guys. Let's have a listen. The wires are buzzing like crazy. Now, how would you fix that? Think about it for a second. Most people will probably tighten the wires first, so let's try that. Cool, so we have less buzz now. But our snare drum is choked like crazy. So that's not really an option, right? Next questions would be, are the wires worn out? Not really. Are the wires perfectly centered? Yes, they are. So it has to be a tuning issue then, right? Probably bottom head related? No, check this out.
Wow.
The snare drum itself has nothing to do with the problem. In this case, as in many other cases, it's a different drum we have to worry about. First thing to do, isolate the root of the problem. Separate your snare drum from your drum set and see if things are drastically better already. If they're not, it has to be a snare drum issue. Here's a checklist for that. How is the wire tension? Are the wires too loose? Are the wires too tight? Go check out both extremes. Loosen your wires till your snare is really rattling. Then tighten them till your snare is really choking up. With a little bit of time and practice, you'll get more and more picky about that sweet spot in between. Are your wires still intact? Sometimes there's missing wires, sometimes wires get bent out of shape. If that's the case, you probably have to replace them. Are your wires perfectly centered? If they're not, go fix that. How's the condition of your bottom head? This bottom head has seen better days. There's dents in it and it's very old. This definitely causes some unwanted buzz, but never the extreme buzz you heard in our example. All this stuff is mostly visual and takes like 5 seconds to check. In case everything's okay, it's most likely a tuning issue. If you're interested in this particular kind of stuff or if you have tuning questions, leave me a comment. Now let's get back to our initial problem. We already found out that the buzz is triggered by our drum set. Now let's identify the specific drum that's causing the problem. Most often it's the drum closest to our snare drum. In rare cases, the problem can also be the resonant head of a specific drum. We already discovered one way to fix the issue. If we take away some resonance from the better head of the drum, the buzz will disappear. And a little rolled up piece of tape should be enough to do the trick. The more I put the tape towards the center of the drum, the more resonance and also tone it will take away. If you don't want to muffle, you have to adjust the tuning of the tom a little bit. It does not matter if you go up or down. So these are the two options, tuning or muffling, or both, it's up to you. There's a lot of possible combinations that work really well here. Snare sounds sometimes have to be very specific to fit certain bands or even certain songs. So it's a good idea to be able to fix all that stuff without having to mess with your snare drum tuning. Now let's get to the sympathetic buzz. First, a word on other instruments, especially bass. You will have some specific notes that will buzz like crazy. If you tune differently, the problem will just shift to different notes, so don't even bother. You can try to thin out your monitor mix or ask the bass player to turn away his amp a little bit, but besides that, there's really nothing you can do. So get used to it, and please, when you're not playing in a certain section of a song, or when your bandmates set up or soundcheck their instruments, or when you leave the stage, turn the snares off. Let's have a look at our toms now. There's 3 main fixes known to mankind. We already talked about the first one, muffling. The second fix has something to do with your wires. A standard set of snare wires has 20 or 24 strands, but you can also buy wires that only have 12 or even 42 strands. Now here's what logic would suggest. The less wires sound, the less sympathetic buzz, but also more resonance from your bottom head. Vice versa, the more wires sound, the more sympathetic buzz, but also less resonance from your bottom head. Sadly, I do not own 12 or 42 strand wires, so I have no idea if this stuff cancels itself out or not. Though, that might be an experiment for another day. The third fix, well, there's people insisting that lowering the tension on the 4 lugs closest to the snare drum wires on the bottom head will reduce sympathetic buzz. Let's try that out. Wow!
Wow.
Perfect fix, right? But our snare drum. Ew! Totally choked up. Why is that? If we lower the tension on the bottom head, we'll have much more wire pressure. And if we only do that to the specific lugs around the wires, this effect is even more drastic. So this whole fix is basically nothing else than tightening your snare drum wires. In order to get our snare drum sound back, we'll have to loosen them again, and suddenly we're back at square one. Bummer. In case I lost you there, here's a little experiment you can do. But let's go back to our original tuning first. Loosen your wires until there's little to no contact to the bottom head anymore. That's about right. Now we loosen the 4 lugs again. Let's see what happens. Goes way up, insane. Well, looks like there's no real fix for sympathetic buzz without messing up your snare sound. So deal with it, maybe use some muffling, and if you're not playing, turn off your snares. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Otherwise, good luck, have fun, and subscribe for more drum hacks. Bye.